Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Janine. Today is different because I'm actually recording this from Rhinebeck, New York. I'm here by myself, and honestly, that sentence still feels kind of surreal. I'm attending a retreat with Dr. Brian Weiss at the Omega Institute. If you're not familiar with him, he's a psychiatrist who became well known after writing Many Lives, Many Masters, a book that explores his experiences with past life regression therapy. Whether you believe in that or not isn't really the point of this episode. I don't know all the answers, and I'm not here to convince anyone of anything. What I am here to talk about is what happened when I finally said yes to something that scared me. Because this wasn't just a trip. This was the first time at 38 years old that I've traveled somewhere completely on my own. Not to visit family, not because I had to, but because there was something inside me that kept saying, go. And for whatever reason, I finally listened. Now, if you've listened to my podcast before, you know anxiety has been a huge part of my life. I overthink everything. I imagine every possible worst-case scenario. I worry about what people think. I convince myself I don't belong. So the idea of flying somewhere I'd never been, staying in a hotel alone, driving around unfamiliar roads, and walking into a room full of strangers, honestly, a few years ago, I probably would have talked myself out of it. But this time, I didn't. And that's what I want to talk about. Because I think so many of us spend our lives waiting until we feel confident before we do something scary. The problem is, confidence usually comes after we do the scary thing, not before. Walking into the Omega Institute today, I had butterflies. I didn't know anyone. I wondered if everyone else knew each other. I wondered if I'd feel awkward. I wondered if I'd be the odd one out. You know, all those stories our brains love to tell us. And then something really interesting happened. People smiled. They introduced themselves. They were kind. Nobody was judging me. Nobody cared that I came by myself. In fact, I met some really wonderful people. Sometimes our minds create a version of reality that never actually happens. And that's something I've been realizing more and more over these last few months. Another thing I've been thinking about is being open-minded. Not gullible, not believing everything, just open. I think there's a difference. I'm here because I was fascinated by Dr. Brian Weiss's work. Reading Many Lives, Many Masters made me think about life in a way I hadn't before. Do I know what's true? No, and I'm okay saying that. But I've learned that curiosity has value. Sometimes exploring an idea isn't about proving it's right. It's about asking better questions. It's about realizing we don't have to have every answer to grow. And honestly, I think that's true for life in general. Growth doesn't happen because we already know everything. Growth happens because we're willing to admit that maybe we don't. As I sat there listening today, I looked around the room. There were people of all ages, different backgrounds, different stories, different reasons for being there. But there was something they all seemed to have in common. They were searching, not because they were broken, because they were curious, because they wanted to understand themselves a little better. And I thought, maybe that's something we should never stop doing. Maybe growth isn't something we're supposed to finish. Maybe it's a lifelong process. I hope I'm still learning when I'm 80 years old. I hope I'm still asking questions. I hope I'm still willing to change my mind. Because I think the moment we believe we've learned everything, we stop growing. One thing that keeps running through my head is this. I don't know why it took me so long to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Maybe I spent too much of my life trying to avoid fear, trying to avoid embarrassment, trying to avoid failure, trying to avoid judgment. But what if all those things we've been trying to avoid are actually the doorway to the life we want? I almost didn't start this podcast because I was afraid. I almost didn't publish those first episodes because I worried what people would think. I almost didn't take this trip because it felt easier to stay home. And if I had listened to that fear, I would have missed all of this. It's funny because when I look back, the moments I'm most proud of usually weren't the easiest ones. They were the moments where I almost backed out, but didn't. So maybe that's the lesson I'm taking away today. Maybe courage isn't waking up fearless. Maybe courage is saying, my heart is racing. My stomach is in knots. I have absolutely no idea how this is going to go, but I'm going anyway. If you're listening to this and there's something you've been putting off, maybe it's applying for a job, maybe it's starting a business, maybe it's going back to school, maybe it's seeing a therapist, maybe it's taking a solo trip, maybe it's finally speaking up for yourself. Whatever it is, you don't have to wait until you feel ready. You might become ready because you started. Tomorrow is another full day here at the retreat, and I honestly have no idea what's ahead. Maybe nothing life-changing happens. Maybe everything changes. Either way, I'm grateful that I came. I'm grateful that I chose growth over comfort. And I'm grateful that I get to share this journey with all of you. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, keep asking questions, keep growing, and maybe, just maybe, get a little more comfortable being uncomfortable.